Security arrangements will be in full force even before the president touches down in Knoxville. The FAA tower at McGhee Tyson will suspend all takeoffs and landings 15 minutes prior to the president's plane arrival. The plane, the limousine, and fuel supplies for both will be under Secret Service, National Guard, and airport security wraps. They'll hand off the motorcade to the Blount County Sheriff's Department, the Highway Patrol, Knox County, Knoxville City Police, the Tennessee Bureau of Identification, and the FBI. All cross streets to Alcoa Highway will be blocked off until the motorcade passes. In case of any accident, or the president becomes ill, or in case of any unforeseen incident, the convoy will proceed to the nearest hospital, preferably University Hospital. O-positive blood, President Carter's type, has been stockpiled by all area hospitals. All press personnel have been cleared in advance. All drivers, cooks, and others who will be part of the presidential party have been subjected to rigorous security screens. And here's one aspect of the story officials are hesitant to talk about. Everyone who is listed in FBI or Secret Service files as having made a threat against the president will be under surveillance from pre-arrival to post-departure. Some people may even be detained for questioning during the entire presidential visit.
Good evening, everyone. By far and away, the most important event in our area today was President Jimmy Carter's visit to Knoxville and Oak Ridge. Literally thousands of people were swept up in the event as the president's plane touched down on schedule at 10:25 this morning. As Air Force One taxied up, dignitaries, including Senator Howard Baker and Congressman John Duncan, lined up at the foot of the ramp waiting for the president to appear. After a short pause and a wave, he came down the ramp, followed by Congresswoman Marilyn Lloyd and Senator Jim Sasser, who had accompanied the president on the flight from Plains. There was a quick word for everyone in the receiving line, and then the Secret Service hustled Mr. Carter toward his limousine. There were more brief pleasantries with Governor Ray Blanton. Then the president, Blanton, Senators Baker and Sasser all climbed into the back of the limousine for the ride from the airport to the Civic Auditorium. Every side street along Alcoa Highway was blocked with a highway patrol car or a cruiser from area law enforcement agencies all the way to the auditorium where Mr. Carter addressed TVA employees. News Center 10's Valerie Hyman has that part of the story.
Carter made no new announcements to the 2,500 TVA employees, but he did heap praise upon the agency and retired chairman Aubrey Wagner. He promised David Freeman would be a good board chairman and said Freeman would help raise the national consciousness about safe, efficient energy use. He also commented generally on who he will appoint to fill the 2 vacancies on the TVA board and tried to console consumers about the recent rate increase.
And I will soon send the names of the other board members to the Congress for confirmation. We've never spent more time and effort in screening out a long list of potential appointees than we have for these 2 selections now before me. We've devoted the same amount of time and attention to it as in the original selection of my own cabinet. In spite of rate increases mandated by the increasing cost of oil, coal, and nuclear fuel, Tennessee still has the lowest home electric rates of any state east of the Rocky Mountains.
Carter also emphasized his support of TVA's rural development program, an effort to stop congestion in the cities, and he praised TVA's advances in air pollution control, without mentioning the fact that the Environmental Protection Agency still has a suit against TVA for breaking air pollution laws. After mingling with the crowd a bit, it was on to Oak Ridge, and Dave Hopkins takes the story from there.
The presidential motorcade arrived at Oak Ridge National Labs without incident, much to the delight of several hundred spectators that lined the entrance of the facility. But the president never saw these demonstrators who were at the Atomic Energy Museum this morning to protest nuclear proliferation. Many of the 36 sign-carrying demonstrators are members of the Catfish Alliance, a Florida-based anti-nuclear group. Featured speaker of a mid-morning rally held at the Oak Ridge Civic Coliseum was Richard Pollack, the director of Ralph Nader's Energy Group.
It is our concern that if there are plutonium breeders, if we go to a plutonium economy, this type of material will be so prevalent, will be such a common commercial item that it could actually threaten not only our way of life, but perhaps world peace itself.
Protesters against nuclear energy were not the only ones to hold a demonstration today. Here at the entrance to the Oak Ridge National Lab, a large contingent of pro-nuclear energy people held their own demonstration.
It's a group of high school students that got together because they were concerned about Carter's and his administration's opinion about the breeder plant and nuclear energy. And we wanted to show him that the opinion of young people in Oak Ridge and other areas is for nuclear energy.
A large turnout of mostly students from the Oak Ridge schools held out hope that the president would make a brief stop before entering the laboratory facility. But as expected, the group was disappointed as the motorcade sped by, barely affording Carter a glimpse of the roadside activity.
The president was greeted in Oak Ridge by National Lab officials who guided him through a small technical exhibit. Then came the event around which the visit was planned in the first place, a roundtable discussion with National Lab scientists. But, as in his TVA speech, Carter's comments were general and obviously aimed at boosting morale.
In the future, I think the success that we will strive to achieve in the energy field is heavily on your shoulders.
The discussion itself was closed, but Lab Director Herman Postma said after the talk he was encouraged and pleased by it. Of the 5 projects explained to the president, Postma said Carter showed the most interest in the lab's fusion program, designed to produce an unlimited source of energy early in the next century. Carter wanted to know if the Soviets are ahead of the United States in fusion development.
In terms of the basic science part of fusion, that they're either even with us or perhaps slightly ahead. They have a larger program and it has much greater breadth. In terms of specific achievements or the sophistication of what is done, we, because of our technology advantages, are perhaps ahead.
Carter revealed no new administration positions in his discussion with the scientist, but one substantial issue did result, possibly the most substantial, in a trip that was otherwise pretty lightweight. Carter asked Lab Director Herman Postma to draw up a new long-range plan for Oak Ridge National Labs to show its direction in the future. Postma says on the basis of Carter's questions and comments, he will emphasize 2 things he wouldn't otherwise have talked about in such a long-range plan: more efficient uses of coal and biological hazards resulting from energy production. The last stop on Carter's Oak Ridge tour was covered by News Center 10's Judy Jenkins.
The last part of the president's Oak Ridge trip was a tour here at the gaseous diffusion plant, K-25, a tour of classified information. While inside the facility, President Carter was briefed on the centrifuge research being conducted at Oak Ridge, research for a plant to be constructed in Portsmouth, Ohio. Ironically, at one point, some Oak Ridge officials had hoped the $4.5 billion centrifuge plant would be put in Oak Ridge. After the tour, the presidential motorcade was greeted by a small band of people carrying placards and posters. Their aim, to show the president that they agree with him, that other forms of energy are the answer to our future needs. But if President Carter saw them, his expression never changed. He was waving and smiling the famous Carter smile as the motorcade turned left on the road to Knoxville and the airport, where Van Hackett was waiting to meet him.
Center 10 and the live action cam were back at the airport when the presidential motorcade returned. Mr. Carter got out, shook hands with almost all of the spectators lined along the fence, and then came to the press area where we got a chance to ask him one more time about Oak Ridge.
Mr. President, what did you learn at Oak Ridge in your chat with the scientists?
Well, I learned what the present capabilities of Oak Ridge are, doing the work they've already undertaken, and also some possibilities in the future for expansion of the research and development work there.
Would you plan then to keep Oak Ridge functioning as a nuclear facility, or what plans do you foresee right now?
Yes, of course, I do. There's no doubt about it.
That wraps up the president's visit to Knoxville and Oak Ridge today. All in all, it's been a very smooth trip for the president, despite some demonstrations by Iranian students and pro- and anti-nuclear forces. There was a lot of information tossed at the president. We don't know what he learned today, but we suspect we'll be finding out in the days and weeks to come.